I've got no words. They only went and bloody won it. I'm just going to play this. We'll be back in a minute. Well, what can I possibly say that starts us off here other than England are the only team other than Germany to retain the European Championships. Not one of us thought they would even make the final, but there they were in all their glory and defeating not just any old team, but Spain. It was, I think, quite an experience, quite a game, and my goodness, we've got a lot to get into. But just before we do, let us introduce our star panel that we have had throughout most of this Euros coverage. To be fair, in the top right-hand corner, back in her rightful place, now Connor's not there anymore, is Liberty. How are you doing?
I'm good. I would like to say to anyone that was watching on Friday, I keep my promises. I have England merch on. Freya, you weren't here, but basically, Barry managed to make multiple references to walls, like actual real walls. And I said that if he managed to get in a reference to the Great Wall of China by the end, that I would wear some England merchandise. And yeah, I keep true to my promises. He managed to do it right at the end. So in case you didn't know, honey, I'm home. And yes, she has the trophy. I don't know if you can really see this. This is dreadful angle. Also, I'm back on the floor. I was also not on the floor on Friday, but I'm back on the floor. Trophy in hand. This is from 22, but you know, it still works. But I'm good other than that.
There we go. Great news, and a very, very good t-shirt indeed as well. And for those watching, no, that's not a chair. We established that in the last show. And also with us, also apparently not on a chair, but sat happily in front of one, is, I would call her the podcast marathon queen, who, having thought that she'd finished on Sunday evening, was asked just to do one more. I mean, imagine that. Imagine you've run like multiple marathons and then somebody just pops on and go, just one more, even though you've finished. I don't know how you do that mentally, but Freya's doing it. So well played, you. How the devil are you, young lady? You all right?
Thank you. Yeah, good, thank you. I think at this point, when you've done that many podcasts and you've dedicated so much time and effort into it, what's one more? But yes, feeling very good, thank you. Happy to be back. And like I said earlier, sleep tomorrow. Tomorrow's for sleep. That's fine.
Exactly that. And Couture Criminal has popped straight in with Where Is Sean? And I am going to tell you now, it is not positive news with regards to our friend Sean. Genuinely, he said this on a show, I do believe, that he was going to be getting ACL treatment, and he's supposed to be in for his surgery today, and he spent all day in the hospital, and at 4 o'clock today they cancelled his operation, so poor Sean's got to wait for his ACL. So I mean, that's bad enough news. We had a bad enough Sunday, and now Monday is turning out pretty poor too. But just like Freya said, there's always tomorrow, and as Annie once said, the sun will come out. So let's hope that is the case for young Sean, who we are of course missing. I'm fairly sure that Connor is going to be vociferous within this as well. But whilst we're waiting for Connor to come in with his verbiage, I think it's only right to say what a time it is to be alive. There's been so much that's been talking about women's football. Let's just tell you now that on the BBC, 12.2 million, it's just been revealed, decided to sit down and watch the Women's Cup final. 4.2 million decided to watch it on ITV, which just proves if you stick adverts on things, people don't like it. So 16.4 million people, which is exactly 1 million people less than the 2022 final. We might get into why we think there was a little bit of a drop there on the viewing figures. I like to think it's because maybe more people went out there and more people were watching it communally, because there was a lot more of that happening. But either way, it was more than the royal wedding of Prince William and Princess Catherine, not Prince Catherine. That's a completely different marriage. Princess Catherine of Wales. So there you go. I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to the coronation of King Charles as well. So there we go. Royal family. Let's stand the women's football. And speaking of the royal family, let's start talking a little bit about the current queens, because girls, what a game. What a game that turned out to be. And Liberty, we didn't expect it, but England out the blocks the quickest.
Yeah, it was the kind of game that you want a final to be. It was as back and forth as a team can get with Spain, which sounds slightly, I don't know, counterintuitive, but you know, you go into a game against Spain and you know that they're going to dominate possession and you've got to just try and get as much as you can. And I think that really did happen, and they didn't sort of let Spain walk all over them like we've seen even as far back as the World Cup final. I think that sort of was England's letdown there, but they sort of held their own and kind of stuck in and never let that stop them. They kept sticking in, and there's some, you know, nitty gritty about, was this person the right person to start, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I think everything's set up for England to get that one chance. And like, thank God Alessia Russo took her chance. She often gets criticised for not taking the chance, for having really good opportunities and missing them or making the wrong decision. But like, thank God she took that chance, because we could be having a very different show if she hadn't. Not going to lie, at first I did think it was going wide, and I sort of went, oh no. And then I saw the net ripple, and I thought, oh my goodness, like that actually went in. I was not expecting that. But yeah, it was just not faultless, because nothing's faultless, nothing's flawless, but very, very good performance. Potentially up there with one of their best, definitely their best of the tournament, I'd say, like, if not of 2025, maybe. I'm not sure, but definitely, yeah, a very, very good performance from the Lionesses.
Definitely. I mean, definitely their best performance in the Euros this year as well. And as they used to say on the old Bisto ad, save the best for last. And there it was. So super duper. And Connor's already talking about, if Spain could take their chances. Well, yeah, I mean, but England had theirs, Freya. England had theirs. And you look at that early start, you had Alessia Russo, who for reasons that I'm not quite sure about, took the shot rather than maybe putting back to the edge of the box. But the ball comes out to Lauren James, who just sort of looked like a character out of Grand Theft Auto, you know, when they get stuck and they just keep on walking, but nothing's actually happening. I couldn't quite work out what happened. There was a glitch in the system for Lauren James there. It wasn't quite her usual self, but nonetheless, it was an opportunity. And of course, Lauren Hemp as well, with the interception for the pass from Katakoi that was just, I mean, I thought that was it. You know, she's won the ball. It's bound to be a chance. So we say, how many chances does Spain want and how clinical do they need to be? But, I mean, England could have been 2-0 up pretty early on.
Yeah, and I think it was strange watching it, because I don't know about anyone else, but it didn't feel like a final. And I think the semi-finals didn't really feel like semi-finals either. And there's just been this strange almost wait for teams to show up and teams to really get into that top gear and really go for it. And it felt like, because England and Spain were frustrating each other quite equally, I think Spain never really got going. England, again, had chances but couldn't quite find the end product. And I think it just felt quite, not stale, but you were waiting, and we had to be so patient for something to happen in that game. And then when that Spain chance did go in, you had that moment of, I know we can, and we have been pulling something from nothing, but can we actually do it this time? Have we still got it in us? Because we heard, you know, injuries at the end, Lucy Bronze with a fractured tibia the whole way through, which ridiculous that she was playing on it, but that's Lucy Bronze, isn't it? But you just think everything that we've been through on this roller coaster, it felt, by the time it got to penalties, I felt that was a fair way to end it, because neither team were able to finish their chances. And I agree with what Connor said about, you know, Spain being one striker away. from glory almost, because you bring in, Vicky Lopez on, you bring in Salma Paralluelo on, who are great for Barcelona, but at this Spanish level where you're expecting them to be, you're taking Esther off. What are you doing that for? So yeah, even the starting lineup for, Athenia starting, she's so much better as super sub, and you just think, if that had gone slightly differently from the Spanish perspective, I think they might have had enough to get it off the line. But at the end of the day, they had their chances and they couldn't do it. And England did, which, how phenomenal is that to say, for a change?
Very, very, very phenomenal indeed. And I mean, you mentioned Lucy Bronze there. I was talking to somebody about it today, and I'm just like, I don't know whether I should be angry or impressed. Like, I genuinely don't know which one to go for. Should I be angry that a player has been allowed to play with that level of injury and that much of a problem? But I mean, I actually tweeted during the game that she's like an energy-saving light bulb, because you don't see too much from her right at the very beginning, but she just shines brighter and brighter and brighter as the game goes on. And that was absolutely the case, 89 minutes or whatever, and she's running after balls that really she's got no right running for. So, yeah, it's incredible. I don't think anybody really expected that. But by the same token, yeah, it's very, very, very impressed. And that's actually her middle name as well, Tough. That's an actual... How did they know? Just a tiny little baby at the time. How do you know? Mad. But there we go. Liberty, we'll come back over to you, because obviously after missing those chances, I tweeted again, England might rue this, the fact that they're having these good chances and they're not putting any of them away. They need to. And of course, before you know it, the best player in the world, Aitana Bonmati, is down on the England left and battling against Georgia Stanway. She wins that battle, gets the ball into Del Castillo, Athenia, who slots the ball for Honor Battier, who with a superb cross, to be fair, and who else but Mariona Caldente there to... It was a bullet header. And, we've got to be honest, Lucy Bronze there, ball watching, not really looking where Caldente was. If she was, I think she might have spotted it. She seemed a bit shocked that she'd got in front of her, and you could see in her face in the replay, she's like, oh, poo, that probably shouldn't have happened. But it did, and a good goal from Spain, to be fair. And once they got that, they had full control of the game.
Yeah, I think I'm not one to usually defend Lucy Bronze all too much, not because of like anything personal. I just not that type of person. And I think that, we know she is more prone in her slightly older age to mistakes. The thing is, though, with this, I will defend her, because yes, she has to do better. But I also think for players that are playing in the WSL now, they are so used to Mariona being a midfielder that I think she's just sort of not in her head thinking of her as a winger in this moment, which I think is quite funny. Seems as Mariona played as a winger in the same team as Lucy at Barcelona for 2 years. But I do think that in her defence, she's probably thinking, well, she's a midfielder. This is not sort of her kind of movement. But yeah, she does have to do better. That is sort of just part and parcel of the game. It's a very good header. It's a very good pass as well. I think I'd go as far as saying Battier was Spain's best player on the night. I think she was sort of excellent, and she was really trying in ways other people I don't think necessarily were. But yeah, I think it was also sort of coming. I genuinely don't think anyone would sit there and go, it came from nothing. Spain, how did they do that? Like, it genuinely really was going to be, they're going to be the first team to strike. And yeah, then it was sort of harder for the Lionesses to get any sort of stake in the game up until half time. From then, you could see that they were really trying, but Lauren James, bless her, clearly was not in any fit state to be playing football until she obviously had to be subbed off towards the end of the first half. And I think that really hindered them, because I think in this tournament and also before, especially going back to the World Cup, everything was sort of trying to go through Lauren. And I think she genuinely is so talented that it's completely understandable. But when she's clearly not at 100%, they almost were like, what do we do now? We've kind of got no other option. And then you have to make the change. Chloe Kelly comes on, which I think people are probably surprised by. I know I was, because I was sort of thinking, well, if she goes off, Beth Mead's probably going to come on. And she immediately goes for Chloe Kelly, which I think was probably the right choice, because immediately she's trying to get through, break into the box. She does almost immediately. She has that where she's allowed some, almost her first touch or one of her first touches, she's allowed so much space to control the ball and propel forward. And you're thinking, okay, hang on a second, maybe the game's not over yet. Not that I'm saying that it was over at 1-0 to Spain. I don't think so. But when they're kicking into second gear as such, because they've got a goal and they know they sort of need another one, as clearly they did, you're thinking they're going to hit second gear and the Lionesses are going to be stuck sort of trying to play catch up. But she had a really good going in that towards the end of that first half, and then you go in at half time and you hope that some tactics are changed, which they very clearly were, and they worked very well. The Lionesses get more of a stake in the game after that. But yeah, I think it was a very excellent goal. Yes, Bronze should do better, but also at the same time, I would not really want to be trying to head a ball at the same time as Mariona, because she is quite an excellent footballer. I think we've all seen in the WSL this season, even if her tournament with Spain at the Euros hasn't been her best.
Absolutely. She may not be a European Championship winner, but she's a UWCL winner. So, it's part and parcel of the same type of thing. There was a brief moment there, Freya, where I actually thought I had the Lion King playing just underneath me there as we were lifting the child up there. And all I could think of there was I was seeing the circle of life in my head. So I did drift off there just for 30 seconds into my younger self.
That when you won as well. I was like, Toby, we won. Yeah.
But, yeah, brilliant. And again, talk to me a little bit about this Chloe Kelly sub, because Spurs were not playing. Spain were doing very, very well. I don't know where that's come from. Spain were doing incredibly well. And all the way up until the 41st minute, but Chloe Kelly comes on and changes the game immediately. You know, England literally don't have a chance from the goal. It's constant. Spain have got all of the possession, all of the pressure, and then all of a sudden Chloe Kelly comes on, and you can almost see the Spanish side go, hold up, this could be a problem. And it ended up being the case, but you know, it was like that little spark. Do you think it was wrong to start with Lauren James? I mean, again, I was talking to people in and around the club that I work at, and they're like, well, you know what, actually, if you have got a player that's not necessarily 100%, it is best to start them, because if you start them, you can sub them. That's one sub. If you don't start them and then you sub them and then you need to bring them off, that's two subs. So you've kind of wasted a substitution there. So what do you reckon? Was it the right thing? Was there a little bit of emotion there about giving LJ a bit of a chance to play in the final, or what?
I don't think emotion, because we know Serena's very much, she doesn't do sentimental. But no, I think it's very much, we know how special Lauren James is. So even if she's fit enough to start, I think Serena wanted to have that option and that attacking option, because we've seen her make something out of nothing, haven't we? But yeah, as soon as she started, you know, we kind of said, she doesn't look right. She doesn't look herself. And you've got to weigh it up. Do you want to give that player a chance, knowing that if they're not playing their best, should someone else have played 100% from the beginning rather than 70% fitness? So it's hard. So I can see why Serena wanted to do it, but you're right. As soon as Chloe Kelly came on, that injection of pace and that energy and everything that she said about people writing her off and not believing in her. And so for her to come out in this tournament, she knows she's a superstar. She knows what she can do, and she's not afraid to show that. And she does it. She's got all the evidence to back it up, hasn't she, with how she can perform? So yeah, I don't think I personally wouldn't have started Lauren James because of the injury that she clearly had, but I can see why Serena wanted her to start. But yeah, Chloe Kelly, what an impact sub whole tournament.
What a player, and we will absolutely be returning to clutch Chloe Kelly once again. But before we do properly return to her, we need to talk a little bit about how the start of the second half went, because England seemed to come out with renewed vigour, renewed purpose. And it was, of course, Chloe Kelly down at the left-hand side. Nice little ball to her from Georgia Stanway. And the cross was, I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect for Leslie Russo. And you could see, she says that, you know, she doesn't really care who scores the goals as long as they win and all those sorts of things. But it was written all over her face how much that meant to get the goal in the final. She'd only managed the one in the group stage. I think it was the one against Wales. And it just didn't, it wasn't working for Leslie in this case. She'd had 3 assists, but that had come in the game against the Netherlands. So really, there's only 2 games that maybe she's feeling like she's had any sort of an impact in. To do it in the final was absolutely superb, Liberty. And just at that point, you could just feel the entirety of England sort of rising up and thinking, hang on a minute, this one is definitely not over yet.
Yeah, I think Katakoi is going to see blonde Arsenal strikers in her nightmares at this point, because two finals that you've gone on to lose, even not lost. Yeah, I mean, for a player that got told that she doesn't score enough headers to then do that was quite something. And you know, there's not been, I haven't seen criticism of Alessia this tournament, because I think even though she hasn't been scoring, she has had a very good tournament with her off the ball work, trying to play in for others, trying to build hold up play, stuff like that. I think has been really excellent. I think, you know, she's rightfully England's number 9 for that reason. But to get a goal, and to be such a big goal, an equaliser in the Euros final, is quite something. I think there's obviously debates of, will she be nominated for Ballon d'Or? That doesn't matter. Like, at this point, she is England's best striker. That's sort of undisputable, I think. She is a player that in the last 3 years since the last Euros has genuinely come on leaps and bounds. You know, BBC were running this narrative of she's taken Ellen White's shoes, and then like Michelle is taking her shoes from 22, sort of taking that starting spot and holding it with such pride and making her game so clear for England has really, really been quite delightful to watch. I think obviously I'm biased, I'm an Arsenal fan, I love watching her play, I'm so happy that she is an Arsenal player, but when she puts on the England shirt, she is just as good. She sometimes find players sort of not dip, but there is differences in their performances for club and country purely because of tactics are different, formations are different, and they strive in one place over another. But I generally think she has managed to ride the wave and still be an excellent striker. And yeah, an excellent header. As I said earlier, at first I didn't think it'd gone in, and then I saw the net ripple and I thought, oh, okay, they've got this. I think at that point, I think secretly I knew that England were going to win no matter what, purely because Spain looked quite far off it. After that, they looked like, oh God, we've wasted our chances and they've got back in. But then, yeah, and it's anyone's game at 1-1. You're back at a draw, and you can't draw in a final. So it was, from that point, probably the best. Would have been like an hour of football plus penalties that I've watched in a while, purely because it was like anyone's game at that point.
It really was. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about the Spanish forwards, which we will kind of come back to with the next question. But I mean, we've got to take a moment here just to recognise the English forwards. You know, nobody scored more than 2 goals throughout the whole tournament, but there were lots of them that did it all together. Lauren James, as we mentioned, scored 2. Georgia Stanway scored 2. Leslie Russo scored 2. Ella Toon scored 2. And, of course, Michelle Ajuman scored 2. So, we got some players there that did incredibly well, and a few that managed to get themselves a single goal as well. But I suppose it's not necessarily wrong to also mention this. I mean, it was a bit of a decision, having just not let her score, but having just seen her score a goal in the European Championship final, to then go, right, well, that's enough now. We'll take you off. You've done your bit. Did you think that maybe that was a little bit mad? And what did you think about Leslie's contribution, not just in that game, but in the entirety of the championships?
Was that for me? Yeah. Okay. I think Alessia Russo needs more applause for the work she does off the ball as well. And you could see by the final, there was no lack of quality, but you could see she was starting to slow down at that 70-minute mark. So I can see why she was maybe subbed off for Adjuman. I thought that would happen, but maybe more towards the 80-minute mark, not the 70. I thought it was a little bit too early. But yeah, Alessia Russo has been incredible throughout the tournament, and it's hard because when you look at her, there was a lot of chat of, is she better as a 10? Is she better not as that pivotal point? I can see Liberty's face. No, that was a conversation that people were having, and because she does so much work off the ball, and because she's so good at that work off the ball. Sorry, Liberty, I didn't mean to have a breakdown. But she can do both, and I think that's the thing. And because she works so hard, most people are focused on, well, how many goals is she scoring? And when she's suddenly not doing that as much, people say, well, she's been invisible, she's been this, she's been that. And it's like, yeah, but look at her impact in the team as a whole. So yeah, I think most of us watching it, really, really watching it, can appreciate how much work she's done this tournament. But yeah, I can see why she took her off, but I wouldn't have took her off that early in the final, because yeah, it felt like, the goal being her last touch of the game was a bit, what a last touch of a game, but she still had a bit more in her in that final.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can't disagree with too much of that at all. But Liberty, we talk again. One sec. Little frog in my throat there. We talk about how Spain are a striker away from being one of the greatest sides you'll ever see. But, to be clear, that they won the Golden Boot, not the Golden Boat. There's something really going wrong today. My all the words are there. They're not coming out right at all. Yes, she won a Golden Boat, which is nice. Esther Gonzalez there with 4. Pateas scored 3, which was shared only by Cristiana Girelli and Stina Blackstenius. And of course, they had players on 2 as well, in Claudia Pina and Del Castillo scoring a couple. So it's not like they were missing goals. They'd scored more goals than England coming into this final. But as you said, for you, best hour of football that you've seen for a while, it was just on a knife edge. And I can remember feeling all the excitement as England get forward. And as soon as it's going the other way, like, oh, hang on a second. And again, I think I tweeted squeaky bum time has arrived, because it just absolutely had. And you get to like the 90th minute and you're just like, that's it. I'm happy now. Let's go to extra time. Let's blow the whistle. I don't want this level of jeopardy in my life right now, because if it goes the wrong way, that's it, it's over. And then of course you get extra times, you breathe a little bit more until you get towards the end of extra time and Spain are attacking again. It was just a roller coaster that hour, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think Spain's problem is they're so desperate to make Salma Payuelo a striker. She is not a striker. She has never been a striker. She will never be a striker. She is such a winger that it's actually insane to try and make her a striker. She's fast. She's athletic. Like, quite literally, if people don't know, she stopped doing athletics to be a professional footballer, because she genuinely has an athletic background. She ran for Spain and stuff. She generally is incredible. but her pace, her strength, and all of that makes her such a winger that to then put her and try and force her to be a 9 is just shambolic. And it's not just Spain, because Barcelona do it as well. Before they signed Eva Payol, they tried to make Salma a 9 as well. So it's generational. But to make that sub, you bring Esther off and you bring her on. When you have Lucia Garcia on the bench, when you have Maria, I can't think of her last name. The brain's gone. She plays in Italy. I can't think of her name. She makes them. I can't think of her name. Another striker on the bench as well. Somebody, please.
Mendes.
No. She's centre back.
Oh.
It's another one, but I can't think of her last name for the life of me. I'm hoping somebody in the comments will tell me. But you basically have 2 actual 9 options on the bench, and you're bringing on Salma Pereiro, because for some reason kills off Spain in many. You okay, Barry? The tension.
I was searching. I couldn't find it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was trying to help you out, but it's not there.
I was like, but yeah, to what was I saying? That sort of kills the game off for them, because basically you then just don't have a lethal finisher in the same way. I didn't think Pina was particularly impressive. I haven't seen her be that bad since the Champions League final. Sorry, couldn't help myself. I think taking Alexia off was also probably a really bad idea in hindsight. And then you're trying to force Vicky Lopez to basically be Alexia, and it's not going to work because they're not the same characteristics of players. It was just sort of a mess. And at that point, you're thinking this is slipping further and further away from Spain, because England have sort of figured themselves out at half time. They go to a back 3. They bring Lucy Bronze to an inverted midfielder, which I think really, really helped. An extra man in midfield to overwhelm Spain where they want the most control really worked. They were suddenly like, oh my God, we don't have as much time and as much space as we had before. And also meant that Lucy didn't have to do loads of running. And now in hindsight, we know that she was playing with a broken tibia, which is insane. So you're sort of preserving her, even though she then hurts her knee and has to come off. But yeah, I think as Spain slipped away, England built. I think they probably should. I just don't think the decisions were right on the night for Spain, and I think it did cost them in the end. But yeah, it was back and forth. Back. I keep thinking you're going to have the name for me, Barry, in it. No. Anyway,
I wish I did.
I was going to say, on the bench, they've got Martin Prieto and Redondo. Was that either of those two?
Yeah, the first one.
Martin Prieto.
Yeah, wasn't she like top goal scorer in Serie A? Or did I make that up?
No, she plays for Benfica, I believe.
Maybe it was Portugal then, and I'm confusing her with somebody else. I'm pretty sure she's a striker, because I'm pretty sure they subbed her on as a striker in.
Yeah, striker for Benfica. Yeah.
But you have actual strikers on the bench, and you're bringing Salma on, and that's nothing on Salma, because I generally think she is quite talented, and we saw it at the World Cup. The drop off couture criminal that you're referencing is she was injured after the Olympics, and basically spent the first 4 months of the season just gone not playing. She didn't play until December or beginning of January. She had to have surgery and rehab and all that. So it's understandable, but also it just doesn't make sense to bring her on as a striker when you have actual strikers on the bench. But yeah, I think as Spain went like that, England went like that, and then whereas before it was quite starkly different in the first half, that Spain had the momentum of the game, and then it's just back and forth. You're just hoping whoever's strongest defense wins, and I then think that I don't think taking Alessia off at that time was right, but bringing Michelle on was correct because Arena Paredes really struggled to hold Michelle. And some of the calls were so stupid because Paredes is making the fouls and somehow they're going Michelle's way. You know, there's conversations about this we have in the WSL and other leagues that because we view these black players as stronger and more athletic and all that, that they must be the ones making the fouls instead of it happening the other way. And that's like, this is a clear example of that happening. The ref is, other than that, was decently okay in this final. You know, she's probably one of the best referees we have in the game, but to be constantly making those fouls, making those decisions against Michelle when it was so clearly not that way at all, was just ludicrous. Especially the one where Patry jumped so high in the air, I thought she was like trying to do long jump or something. It was insane, and she literally like touched her, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing? You're just embarrassing yourself at that point."
I can't believe she got away with that.
It's just embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like
100%.
actually just shameful. But her and Pina do it all the time. They do it for Barcelona as well, and you'll be watching them, and they always get the calls in their favour, and it actually drives me up the wall because I'm like, you're so talented, you don't need to stoop that low. Just like play football. Anyway, but yeah, I think taking Alessia off was not right, but bringing Michelle on was right. But then you're like, oh, who else do you take off, bring on? It's all a bit complicated, and that's the reason why it's not my job. But yeah, and then you get to extra time, and I thought extra time, this is going to penalties. I did not see one team winning it in extra time unless it went to like somebody was fouled in the box and it was a penalty, like an organic penalty instead of a shootout. But yeah, it was, the last hour or so after England's equaliser was genuinely just so, you couldn't take your eyes off it, truly.
And it was a strange one, wasn't it, Freya? Because as Liberty says there, some weird changes. When you take off your two top goal scorers, as we've just said, Esther Gonzalez, gone. Alexia Putellas, gone. And they're bringing on a player in Sama Parajuelo who hasn't scored all tournament, like nothing. And it just felt wrong, didn't it? It was almost as if they were making these substitutions more in hope. You know, I mean, you talk about taking off Russo for Hajiman, but at that point, they'd scored the same number of goals. So, you know, there's at least something in there. Why do you think it was that Spain just sort of committed these sorts of acts of self-harm almost, where they were just like, I'm going to take this player off, I'm going to take this player off, I'm going to take this player off, I'll put you on, and it doesn't matter if we lose, it's not a problem.
I have issues with Spain, many issues, but the main thing is that there seems to be this element of certain players have to play regardless of whether they're in form or not, and it's very much the name of that person. So we know, and again, different podcasts, the amount of players that should have been called up but haven't been because of various issues with the RFEF and etc. So there are more talented players out there that really should have got the time at these tournaments. However, for the players that were there, I just think, you know, because a lot of them play for Barcelona, there's almost a Barcelona tax and a Spain tax that comes with refereeing. Sometimes it's quite easy to think there's a bias there, and I think sometimes the decisions made aren't justified, like we're saying. So when Michelle Adjiman was coming on, she's a proven goal scorer for England. We've seen what she can do. She needed more minutes, she was brought on. But yeah, if you've got players who just aren't quite there yet, but they're still given the time as if they are going to be a super sub and they are given that impact. So I don't know if some of it is a bit of false belief that it will come, or whether it's that thing of, oh, well, they play for this team, they've got this status about them, therefore they should be playing regardless of whether they're in form or not. So I think that, yeah, that's one of the main issues I personally think about this current Spain side.
Yeah, completely fair. And I think, again, it's a reasonable thing to bring up that, you know, that, as you say, there were players that were playing all the way up through the Euro qualifiers, and then for reasons that we can't quite work out, all of a sudden had 7 players apparently in front of them that are better, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Probably made more sense thinking, you know what, she's 35, she's getting on a bit, we want to try and give youth a chance. At least that would have had some sort of level of truth to come around it. Right, we're going to have to talk about the penalties because, I mean, of course, this tournament ended in penalties because this tournament has been all about the penalties. A ridiculous number of penalties, both in normal time and at the end of games. I mean, England are the first side to get to the final, having gone to extra time in all of their knockout games, which is just, again, crazy. The fact that they played actual whole match more than any other team. They played a whole 90 minutes in all of that. But there we go. So let's take a look. We'll take a look at these each round. And obviously in the first round, we have Beth Mead step up first. And I've got to be honest, my heart broke a little bit of this one because she scores. And we're all thinking, excellent. But she didn't look too good when she got up. She didn't look like a player who was happy that she'd scored, even though she'd slipped. I turned around and said, yeah, she's done what John Terry wished he could have done in the Champions League final. And then, of course, before you know it, we're taking it again. Interesting rule coming down to the fact that if there's a double touch and you scored it, you get to take it again rather than it being a missed penalty. But of course, we know that Beth Mead is a very fair player, and she's obviously decided that that was entirely wrong. And so she missed the next penalty, which I thought was incredibly sporting of Beth Mead to go ahead and do that. Patry, who of course being mentioned a lot in the comments at the moment, puts our penalty away, no problem at all. 1-0 to Spain. Simple question goes to both of you. At that point, are you sitting there and thinking, well, of course, this is going to end up with a penalty shootout loss to England because that's kind of how life works, or what? Where are your thoughts? Because I'll admit, I was sat there going, oh, God, don't say it's gone all this way for that.
No. I think I was like, at that point, I was running through my head who the penalty takers for either side were going to be, purely because as I was watching on BBC for reference, and the commentary kept going, they've taken all England's penalty takers off. They've taken off Alessia and Lucy and Georgia from the last one, and who's going to take it? And they were like, oh, we've only got Chloe left. And I was thinking, hang on a second. Right. So for England, I think Beth would go up. I think Leah would. Obviously Chloe. I was like going through my head, and then I turned to Spain and I was thinking Mariona Wood. She's penalty taker for Arsenal and has taken penalties for Spain before. I was thinking, oh, maybe Atana Wood, the kind of person she is in Patry, and that's what I was going through instead of spiraling like Barry clearly was and thought the Lionesses were going to lose. I was just sort of being, I guess, like quite logical and measured. I was thinking, okay, who's next? Who's going to get us back in? And also I was thinking ultimate faith in Hannah Hampton, obviously. I trust her more than Katakoi to save penalties. I'm just going to put that out there. So I was thinking, okay, well, if it comes to it, you know, I genuinely believe Hannah could get England out of this and help them to win. That was what's going through my head instead of rocking in the corner, hoping for it all to be over quite quickly, like Barry clearly was.
But you do worry about these things, Freya. Like, I mean, Liberty's mentioning that. Who's going to take it? And my worries come from other places as well. You start thinking about how, you know, Big Misha's sat there and all of a sudden she's the darling of English football. She misses a penalty. I mean, her tax is going to be way worse than any other English player for reasons that I don't need to go into and that are entirely unfair, but you just know what the backlash would be for that. So you start worrying about these sort of things, players that are making really good progress in their career, and they can be hampered just by missing it. So that's kind of where my worries were, was that somebody's going to have to be the villain. And so often it is us. You know, you go back to Gareth Southgate, Chris Waddle, you know, penalty shootouts in England, they don't mix very well usually.
No, they don't. But I was more on Liberty's wavelength when that happened. So I was like, we know what Hannah Hampton can do, and we've seen her save goals. We've seen, for years now, we've seen what she can do in front of goal. And I have always felt really comfortable with Hannah Hampton in goal. Because obviously, from a Villa perspective, having her as a goalkeeper was incredible. So then when she went, I was like, I'm never going to feel that again. I don't think. Just such a safe pair of hands, and you trust her so much. And she proved us right, didn't she? But yeah, when it came to Alex Greenwood next, and I think, because I know probably won't talk about it, but having Chloe Kelly in that particular position, you need to order your players where they're confident enough with it. And we saw in the against Sweden, like that should never been a situation for, oh god, what was her surname? Holmberg. Yeah, thank you. That shouldn't have been a situation for her. Should have been earlier on in the penalty takers if she was taking it. So yeah, I think having someone as confident as Chloe in that fifth position, I think that was a very sensible, really good decision there. To have that order that people who are able to deal with it can. And that was a very round the houses way of saying you need to have a proper order, and it can't just be any old person next up, essentially.
Oh, and of course, that's absolutely true until you get sudden death, and then all of a sudden it becomes a bit of a lottery. But no, you're absolutely right. And you were right to point out that Alex Greenwood obviously stepped up. And in fairness to me, because I was making it all sound like I was spiraling out of control, I whispered under my breath, she's usually pretty good at penalties. And it turned out that she was. She curls that away from Katakoi, which was superb, and up steps Mariona Caldente. And I'll tell you what went through my head when she stepped up. I make no apologies for this. I went back to that Manchester United against Chelsea penalty shootout where John Terry missed, because Cristiano Ronaldo scored the goal for Manchester United, but he also missed a penalty. And so often I find that the players that have scored the goal in the final step up quite confident to take their penalty and then fluff their lines. And of course she then did, at which point it was 1-1. Again, people are talking about the quality of the penalties. Sporty makes reference to it as well just here. And I'm a little bit annoyed at keep listening to people talk about, the penalties weren't so great. I've seen some awful penalties in my time, and I don't think they get enough credit for understanding how small that goal looks when you are playing in front of this many people under this much pressure. And like, when you take a penalty, regardless of the height, if it goes in, it's a great penalty, because you've sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. When the goalkeeper guesses right, surely we should now be giving a little bit more credit to the goalkeeper for doing their homework, rather than having to go at the penalty taker, who ultimately, number one, had the guts to step up and do it, and number two, has done their best to get it on target. They haven't skied it, like Joey Barton would. Anyway.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was laughing and then trying to go off mute at the same time. It was like a whole thing. That's funny. Yeah, I think this Mariona one was a clear example of Hannah Hampton doing her homework and it paying off, because if you watch Mariona take penalties, she always goes the same way. She goes across her body into the far, what would be her right-hand corner of the goal, what Hannah's left. Always. The one she missed against Liverpool for Arsenal, the same. The one she took against Lyon that she scores in the Champions League semi-final, same. The one that she missed that was saved by Olivia Peng, I believe, was the same. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say yeah, because it's the same as someone like Chloe Kelly always goes. A lot of people make up of the Chloe Kelly jump and skip, but she always goes the same corner. And the reason why the Italian goalkeeper could save her penalty in the semi-final is because she always goes in the same corner. So you do run that risk. And I think this was genuinely just a really good example of Hannah Hampton having done her homework. We obviously saw her strap the sheet to her arm, which was a new tactic, because usually they go on the water bottles and then everyone can see them. But she had it on her arm. I quite respect that. And yeah, it was just also very good height for her to get it at. You know, Mariona's not. I think the cheap comparison with Mariona is to Kim Little, and Kim Little always goes the side netting, so it's slightly too high to be caught. Obviously on the inside of the penalty, not the outside. But she always goes sort of middle, so it's slightly harder when you dove to get it, whereas Mariona always goes low and somewhat fast. That's up for debate, but I do think this is genuinely just Hannah Hampton really showing her excellence and showing her homework more than a bad penalty from Mariona, because we've seen one excellent penalty taker she can be, and she usually is for club and country, but I can't really remember instances other than this, because Alexia would take them.
I mean, Freya Liberty's right there, but you step up for the third penalties, and Neve Charles steps up, and I don't mind saying at that point I was nervous because again I don't see too many penalties taken by Neve Charles, so you sort of wonder what's going to happen here, how's she going to do, and Sporty talks about it. Most of Spain's missed penalties are a comfortable height for the keeper or miss the target altogether. Let's be clear, category goes the right way, probably saves Neve Charles' penalty, because it wasn't a particularly high height, it wasn't straight into the corner. She just put the goalkeeper the wrong way, which is part of the mental battle of a penalty shootout. This is a hill I think I'm going to die on, because you start sitting there thinking about where you're going to put it. You've got to practice these things like ridiculously good to be, or be German, effectively, to have the absolute cojones to just stick the ball in the top corner, like so many of them do. With the precision and the pace that they manage to. You know, these guys are trying to put power into their penalty, but Neve Charles scores it. And then up comes Bon Mati. And again, with this one, I simply went, Hannah, you save this one, you're going to be a legend, because you can't be saving penalties against the best player in the world. And then she did, Freya. And then she did.
She did.
Point, I could feel the belief coming back.
Yeah, see, it never left. It was always there in Hannah Hampton's hands. But yeah, I think just to go back to Neve Charles briefly, when you've got people stepping up to take penalties who aren't necessarily known as penalty takers, you've then got that mystery, and you've got the mystique of, you know, she could go either way. And at the end of the day, goalkeepers can do their research, which is brilliant, but you then have to judge it on the ball on that day and the stance. And it's, like you said, it's a mind game. And that's exactly what penalties are. And Gabby Logan said something really bizarre. She said, there is no pressure on the goalkeepers now. It's all on the penalty takers. I was like, well, the goalkeepers, they've still got a job to do. Yes, the penalty taker, you know, has to get it in the right place. Of course they do. But the goalies, you know, they're not just going to go, in you go. You know, they've still got to do their job and perform to their highest standards. So, yeah, I thought that was a strange one. But yeah, when you've got Aitana stepping up, and just the name, you're like, you know, incredible player, know what she can do. But I genuinely didn't think she looked like herself that whole match. She was getting so frustrated and so worked up. And it got to that point, and I thought, Hannah Hampton can do something here, like you said, you know, a legendary save if she does it. But yeah, I just had a feeling at that point Spain didn't look confident, and I thought, we can do this. You know, can we essentially do a Norway and just completely jammy everyone here and get through in the last minute? So yeah, there was a bit of a lack of confidence on that Spanish side at that point, because they could see the tide was starting to turn.
Well, you're not wrong. And of course, that lack of confidence permeated both of the next penalties, really. Leah Williamson, bless her, steps up, and I thought it was a good penalty, actually, this one. It was a much better height, but Katakoi gets her hand up almost at the last minute there, and it's a strong wrist that she gets onto that one. And you can see it on Leah's face, because she sits there and she's like, oh, and then she, oh, no. And the pain, because she knows she scores that. If Spain miss, then it's the win. And of course, they then did, because Paraguayo, bless her, she couldn't score in normal time. And again, this is what I'm talking about with the pressure. She's aiming for a corner, an explicit corner. She doesn't want to be putting it at a comfortable height. She wants it to be unsavable, so she's aiming for the corner. But it is just, it's fine margins. You are aiming for such a specific part of that goal that if you did that in training, she'd probably hit it 99 times out of 100 without any trouble whatsoever. But in a European Cup final, 30-odd thousand people watching you, 6 million in your home country watching on the TV, more than ever have watched you before on Spanish TV. I mean, you can forgive that, surely, Liberty and Freya, the fact that these people are taking penalties, and maybe it does get a bit too much for them. But I mean, I think it would get a bit too much for all of us.
Yeah, and also she's only 20. I feel like Salma gives off the vibes of somebody who's like 25. She's been around the block. She's played this game before. She's 20. Like, she's still a kid. She's been at Barcelona a couple seasons now. Like, she's not this super duper experienced footballer. And so you can definitely forgive her, because it's very brave to step up and say, you know what, no, I'm going to be in the shootout. And it is probably the direction of her foot probably lets her down slightly, because if she's ever so slightly, like, couple degrees further, it goes in where she wants it. Like, I think because of the amount of power she's got behind it, it looks worse than it is, dragging it wide, because it looks like, oh my god, it's gone so far. But that's purely power over her actual direction. I think, a couple degrees left would have seen it into the bottom corner. I have something to say about Niamh Charles. Sorry to go back again, but I just thought of something and it's really made me laugh. So, in the USA-Sweden shootout in the World Cup, and Kirsty Muir stepped up, and people were like, oh, don't really know what's going to happen here. She'd only come on right at the end. Believe that her only touch of the game was her penalty. But I had the same feeling watching Niamh Charles that I did watching Kirsty Muir in that game, where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm quite enjoying it. And watching Niamh step up, I just was like, you know what? Fair enough. Because I wonder, and this is me thinking out loud, sorry, it's going to be quick. If that was supposed to be Lucy Bronze in that lineup, if they'd said before, Lucy, you're going to go third, and then there was no Lucy, and then Niamh was like, well, it was supposed to be Lucy, so I'll do it. I wonder, probably a bit more planning than that, because they knew that Lucy potentially wouldn't be able to play another 120 minutes. But just a thought. But yeah, but as soon as Salma's penalty goes wide, I thought, surely Chloe's up next. Surely it's Chloe time. And then I thought, well, England have done it, because Chloe doesn't miss twice, as she said.
4 penalties for her at that point. 4 penalties, and 3 of them for England taken by defenders.
Hey, talented squad. Always said it. Always believed it. But that's the thing. You need to be, and I think just linking up with what you said earlier about we haven't had one particular goal scorer. We've had goals from all of the pitch. And I think that's what this team is about. All of them have got that moment of magic and that bit of quality that it doesn't matter, where they're playing on the pitch. Did I freeze? Am I back? Am I good?
No, you're absolutely fine. I'll explain what has made me giggle in a minute.
Because both of you froze, and I went, oh no, I'm in a funny position. Okay. But yeah, so, we've seen Lucy Bronze essentially be a forward, just not right back. But yeah, we've got so much quality from all aspects of the pitch. I don't think when it comes to England in particular, you can think, oh, well, they're defenders, you've got, it's just, yeah, they can step up and they can do it. I mean, Hannah Hampton starting as a striker, and then she can do it as well. So yeah, I just think we've got a lot of quality, which is a very nice thing to say.
You absolutely do. Yes, we absolutely do. Yeah, so I'll explain now. Listen, I've got no idea. This can't be a real person. And bless him, whatever we're calling, I'm pretty sure this is some form of bot. But they really before. This is what makes me giggle, trying to explain that there was an England match that was going to be on the TV to watch. and it's the same message 4 times, but it's changed slightly 4 times, and it's making me giggle. So first one was the Queen of the Royal AI, which is something brand new there. And that then moves on from being the Queen of the Royal AI to the Queen Victoria Memorial. Don't know where that's coming from. But then after the Queen Victoria Memorial, it's actually Queen Victoria's women that are coming to play, which feels a little bit old. I mean, I know that football was banned for a long time. I don't think I have to go back that far until they're able to play. And of course, just now, it is now His Majesty's Royal Marines coverage. So, Adam, you're making me giggle. I don't even want to ban you or kick you out at this point, because genuinely I'm smiling regularly when I read those. I can't wait to see what happens next. But of course, the next one I think would be Queen Chloe Kelly's Lionesses, because she steps herself up to take that penalty, and I believed it was going in. I really did. But then you think back to the last penalty and you just think, well, I thought she was going to score that as well. And so, you know, you're on the fence, you're hoping, but my God, when that went in, I mean, just scenes. And before you know it, because of that, England have retained the Euros, which I don't think any of us saw at the start of this tournament.
My new guilty pleasure is watching on social media different people reacting to Chloe's penalty, because it is a very unique position where you know that that's going to be, if it goes in, that's the winning moment, so you can film, whereas if it's a goal from open play, it's completely less predictable. And it's just absolutely joyous to watch people cheering, like, especially the videos of we'll talk about this a bit more later on, but like dads and their little boys screaming and cheering. It's just so beautiful, and it made me very happy watching for the last 24 hours. But yeah, I didn't doubt that Chloe. I think that the semi-final was a bit of a fluke. I can't lie. I was like that's out your head. You know, she's clutch in the moments when it matters the most. She will do it. Even going down to tapping in the rebound for the semi-final, I never doubt her. I think for a player that's been on such a roller coaster in the last 12 months in football, it felt right. It felt quite full circle for it to be her again. Except for I was in a sort of a similar boat to Hannah Hampton, where she said I wasn't sure if that was going to be the winner or if I had to step up. I wasn't sure. I was kind of watching it and I was thinking, trying to do the maths. And then by the time I'd done the maths, it was in and they were celebrating and I was like, oh, they've done it. They've won. But yeah, I was on a slight delay trying to be like, hang on a second. So she scores but it doesn't matter, because if then Spain score, they're still one behind. It does. No, I was like, by the time I'd actually done it and figured it all out, it didn't matter because they were celebrating and they'd won it anyway.
When I can confirm that I was fully aware that if she scored it, it was the winner. I'm very proud of myself for maintaining that level of composure, considering I was spiraling in a corner at that point. But Freya, Chloe Kelly, she scores the winning penalty. She assists the equalising goal. She scores the winning goal against Italy as well. I mean, that woman, I wouldn't say single-handedly, but she has dug England and dragged them across the finish line. A little bit like, I don't know if you ever remember seeing the video of the triathletes, the Brownlee brothers. And there's one where one of the Brownlee brothers just looks like he's totally gone and he's wandering about all over the place, even though he was winning. He doesn't know where he's going. And his brother grabs hold of him, drags him across, and then just as they get to the finish line, he pushes him across just so that he finishes just before him. And that was, I think, Chloe Kelly this year, just pulling England all the way to the finish line and pushing us across.
Yeah, she's just a different level of player, isn't she? And to have someone who is so proud to play for the team and for just everything that she's felt, you can see that passion and you can see the desire to play and the want to play, and she brings it completely to every single match. You've never really ever said, oh, Chloe Kelly's had a bit of a rubbish match. Like, I don't recall ever thinking that. So she's someone who is always at the top of her game and clearly works incredibly hard to be there. And lots of people saying, you know, are they going to get, you know, Dame Hoods? Are they going to get all MBEs, all BEs? And I think just it would be a fraction of the recognition for especially people who watch the game and love the game to see what an impact that she has made, and the fact that she keeps turning up and she keeps performing, and is just so reliable for this team. And she's just a joy to watch, isn't she? Just everything that she's able to do, and how she can link up play, and she can just everything about her. I don't have a bad word to say about her, which is also quite nice.
Mate, it's quite something. And again, Chloe Kelly's certainly somebody that's changed a lot of opinions. Interesting, damehood for Serena Wiegman. Was talking about this as well. A friend of mine went, "Oh, surely that's it. She's got to get knighted now." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think you can, because she's not allowed to be Serena Wiegman. I don't think we're able to do that." And then I started doubting myself, thinking, "Has there ever been someone who's been knighted? They can't be, no." So then I said, "Well, I'm sure she can become a dame." But even then, I'm thinking to myself, well, I think you've got to actually be British, or
I think you get an honorary
to actually get the title of dame. So you can get an honorary one, I think, but I don't think you can ever be able to call her Dame Serena Wiegman, which in a way I think is quite good, because I've got to be honest, whenever I think about dames, I'm thinking like Edna Everage, or Lily Savage. I'm never really thinking about, top quality people in their fields. So yeah, I don't know, but maybe an honorary one coming through there. So amazing. I can confirm I did remain seated when she stepped up. I definitely didn't when she scored, and I apologize to the many people who I began hugging quite tightly at some occasions. So there we go. That penalty, 110 kilometers an hour, which was the hardest hit shot of the year, I do believe. Quite something. Exactly. They can be honoured, but we don't think it includes a damehood. Right, I'm going to push the question on ever so slightly from all of this, because undoubtedly it was amazing. We've just seen the ladies come home. They've met with the Deputy Prime Minister today at Downing Street, with 4 England flags in there, but no sightings of Larry the Cat, which has worried a few people.
No, they saw him. I can confirm. When they came out again, he was outside, and Neve...
You just waited for the Lionesses to leave. It makes sense. You're a cat. Do you want to hang around with a lioness? No.
Neve, Anna Morehouse, and might have been Alex Greenwood tried to get him to come over to them, but he wasn't having any of it. But he was sighted, and they did say hello. I can confirm.
Excellent news. So there we go. Larry the Cat is safe, but they've made it home, and it's been really interesting, because in 2022 there was so much conversation about how this is going to grow the game in England and Scotland and Wales to a degree as well, because we're all connected whether we like it or not. And as a result, that boom does sort of happen, and it did. It massively did. We've seen the WSL grow, and we've seen a lot of stuff happening at grassroots level. Lots of people turning up to matches. Now, it was interesting. I was listening to Leanne Sanderson, and she was saying I've sort of had enough of this as a rhetoric now. It's not about inspiring the next generation anymore. They're just footballers. Let them do their job. Let them be footballers. That's what they are now. They've done that. They've done the inspiration bit. Now let's just talk about them as footballers. And it kind of made me wonder what you guys think the legacy of this win is going to be, because no doubt there'll be a boom for this year. There always is when something like this happens. But what is the legacy of England not just winning one European Championship, but winning the second one to retain it, and in between that, reaching a World Cup final, which was a narrow defeat as well? It's a golden age for England in women's football. These things do happen. So what on earth is going on there? So can you tell us a little bit about the legacy?
Was that for either of us?
It was, yes. Sorry, I've just had to put somebody on the naughty step for a second there. So there we go. But either one of you, absolutely, both of you, your thoughts on the legacy?
I've been thinking this tournament, it's more about I didn't see the comment. Oh, that's annoying, right? Yeah, it's more about proving, I think, that it wasn't a fluke and that we didn't just win it on the off chance and because it was a home tournament. And I'm trying to be really serious here.
This is a serious question, if you please. Come on, we're talking about legacies here.
Come on, guys. But yeah, no, I think it just proves that it wasn't a fluke and that England can perform to that level and consistently perform to that level. And I disagree with Leanne that, they're no longer inspirations, because of course they are. Like every single year, every single season, more and more children, boys and girls, are going to be looking up and saying, that's what you can do if you work hard enough. And I really love that clubs have lent into, come and see our Lionesses at the club and, come and join in, just have a one-off match, see if you like it in person, if you enjoyed watching the Euros. And I just think a lot more can still be done because attendances we saw had fallen last year. So I just think the more we can do to keep up this enthusiasm and this passion, the better. And I just think they've proven that, it wasn't a one-off and that we do have some bloody good English footballers in this country. So there we
go. Sorry. I'll go next. Sorry. Sorry. I think I understand where Leanne's trying to come from. I understand that it's frustrating because that seems to be the only narrative, while for the men it's necessarily not the same. Yes, you're inspirational for kids that want to play, but that's not the only conversation happening. And when that is the only things being said about female footballers, female athletes in general, it's like, oh, come on, mate, this is like well annoying now. But that being said, if you are successful at anything in life, you're always going to be inspirational to somebody. Like if you get to the top of a company and you get your dream job and you're the CEO of Vogue, I was trying to think of something completely unrelated to sport, and that's all I could think of. You're going to be inspirational to somebody who also wants to get to the top of Vogue. Like there is inspirational people in every walk of life, no matter whether they play sports or not. So it's not going to stop, sort of as Freya was saying, that's how life works. But I understand the frustration. It is annoying that that's the only thing that seems to be talked about. And then you get the other side of, well, this is going to help attendances. This is going to bring everything up. And I've watched now, a decent amount of news coverage on the final and the win. And it's quite stark to see which of these sports editors at these news places interact with women's football regularly and which ones don't. And that's not a slight on them. They're still doing a very good job. But it's quite clear which ones actually are here the day-to-day and not just here because England won the final, which I think doesn't help because they are the ones pushing the narrative more of this inspirational stance, because that's all sort of all they know. They know surface level stuff and they don't know, the nitty-gritty. And, to some extent that's fine, but it is quite telling. But that also will come with people such as themselves being forced to interact with it more, because we ain't going nowhere. Of us three, when this is finished, we will go elsewhere. But like in general, women's football is not going anywhere. It's going to keep going up and up and up. I had a very lovely chat with Barry last night on Twitter where he was saying we're going up. There is nowhere else but up. As in every walk of life, that is how it works. And it gets to a point where we won't be the only narrative around women footballers after they win something won't only be how inspirational they are, because 50 years ago that was probably the narrative around men's footballers, how inspirational they were for kids back then, And now look at where we are in the men's game. So everything is on a 50-year delay in women's football. That is a sad reality. And it won't be this way forever. And we will get to a point where the conversation won't only be inspirational, but it will be the third conversation along, or the fourth, or whatever. And I think that's quite fun. I think that's quite entertaining to know that in our lifetimes, we will get to a point where that's not the only conversation, and we can think and look back and go, I remember when that was the only conversation. Yeah.
No, I think that's fair points to be made there. And Sporty saying, what won't help is the majority of WSL games will be hidden behind a paywall this season. How does that help women's football in the UK? UWCL will be behind a paywall too. And I'm inclined to sort of agree and disagree. There's a brilliant guy to follow. I assume it's a guy. I'm pretty sure his name's Kieran. So yes, it is. The Swiss Ramble. This guy's unreal because the level of effort he puts into understanding the financial implications of football is quite something. And he's posted something brilliant on his Substack, which I just think was immense. And he's shown how since 2005, how everything's grown in terms of the money in the game. And it's gone absolutely through the roof. It really, really has. It's generated 128 million euros in revenue, which is twice as much as it did in 2022, which was just over 60 million, which is quite amazing. But when you split that up, so much of it is coming from different things. The media rights were worth 72 million euros. That was 56% of the entire money that's coming. You then start looking at the commercial rights, which was 41 million euros. The tickets and hospitality are only 15 million euros, but even that's growing time and again. We spoke about the size of the stadiums that were going on in women's football in Switzerland. None of them had more than 40,000 seats, but yet we've ended up with the most well-attended women's Euros of all time. So you start looking at these things and how it's growing and how that money has started to come in. And this is the point. You start putting in the media rights, all of a sudden they're going to want some of that money back. That's kind of how it works. You know, whether we like it or not, if we do want to see more money in the women's game, we are going to have to rely a lot more on media rights and the commercial side of things in order to put more money in order for that money to get pushed out to the people that are working within the game. That's just how it works. I never want it to get as bad as it has got with the men, because I despise what's happening in the men's game. It's just not football. I don't recognise it anymore. You've got to keep the passion. But there should absolutely be more money in women's football. And the best way for that to happen is for them to get it. And this is something that is absolutely happening here. So I just think that's really important to sort of point out how that's happening. UEFA have got the sponsor partners, which are big people, you know, people like Amazon and Lidl and Volkswagen and Visa, you know, these big names that have realised that actually the people that are watching women's football may not necessarily be watching men's football. So this widens the net of people that they can try and lure into getting all of their wares that they're trying to sell. And I think that is really something that's quite amazing. And even the tickets and hospitality, the pricing is so cheap to watch women's football at the moment. So that is going to have to increase at some point as well. And it's that case of why and when. When can you do it, and can you justify it? You've only got to look at the Premier League at the moment and see how much they're charging. It's ridiculous numbers. And this is where I think women's football has 100% got the ability to grow. You look again at the attendances. They've grown in every single Euros. Euro 2022 had 574,000 people turn up. This one had 657,000. So the game itself is growing, and that is just absolutely brilliant. So I think kudos to these people. The competition costs, though, are also going up. And what UEFA have done, which is quite something really, is that they're still the prize money's gone up. So the amount of money that's going there, 41 million euros, it has been put out. That I think is absolutely huge. But when you look, bless him, he's here. But when you look at the competition costs, it is going to be higher. They funded free public transport in Switzerland, which was amazing. And people might think, well, why have they done that? Well, do you know what they did at the men's Euros in Germany as well in 2024? So lots of things happening there. The costs, as I say, have gone up, and the solidarity payments to clubs, that's gone up as well. So there's going to be £9 million going to clubs in general. But it does mean that as a result, the entire tournament loses 35 million euros. But that is because they've put more money into, and they're using it as an investment. They're saying what they've done there is we've had more money come in rather than just keep it for ourselves and do all of that. We're putting the money back in because they're giving it, as we say, to the clubs and to the countries in prize money, which is exactly what's needed to grow the game. So whilst I agree, and that was an incredibly long-winded answer there to what you were saying, I hope that you go and read what this guy has put on there, because actually it really does give a great point. And I think one that when we move on to our final topic, one that really does help people to realise that the game has to get a foot in somewhere in order for it to be self-sustainable. And this is exactly the way that will happen. Absolutely shout out to Absolute Women's Football and the Pot Shot. Absolutely unreal what Freya and Co have done over there. And we have to say, I've got two, but you can't have them because they're not spare. I need both of them, but we do miss you incredibly. And I do hope you watched the beginning of this show where we absolutely did shout you out. And sports channel and someone else coming to the game. You're going to have working class families who simply can't afford match tickets or paywall TV. So you'll have young girls missing the chance to watch. And I sort of agree and again disagree on this one, because they're going behind a paywall. But as it's just been mentioned up here, Disney Plus buying the Women's Champions League rights. I'm not being funny. If it's on Disney Plus, most children have got that. Like, that's one of the things you might choose to go and buy. And yes, people have got to make their decisions, but Sky Sports. One of the things that I hear the angry men shouting about all the time is, give the women their own channel. They won't, because nobody will buy it. They don't need to. It's called Sky Sports for a reason. It's not called Sky Sports Misogynist Men. It's called Sky Sports. Sky Sports Football, because football is football. He's back again, was he? But that's quite a nice one, actually, Adam. You're not funny anymore. That's no good. Sorry. Yeah, had enough of you now. See you later, mate. So there we go.
You put London Lionesses on that one. Did you see?
He did. Yeah, I can't be dealing with that anymore. And that wasn't funny. I was expecting something much better than that. But it's not. It's called Sky Sports Football. And the reason why it's called Sky Sports Football is because, hey, guess what? They put football on it. And you shouldn't be upset that there is football. And we do need to talk about this because the idiots have come flying out in droves, ladies. And I just find it amazing. They sit there and talk about how people want equal pay. And whilst, yes, there has been a discussion around equal pay, the vast majority of that is around national teams. Like, you look at England, they pay £2,000 to the men, they pay £2,000 to the women. Number one, that's a really easy thing to do. And number two, they're getting the same number of people into Wembley. If 90,000 people are going to watch the men and 90,000 people are going to watch the women, then you can probably afford to give them the same amount of money for representing their country. So let's get rid of that. They then start talking about playing the under-15s. So any under-15s team would be able to beat any one of them without any problem whatsoever. Well, number one, I'm not even convinced that adult women should be playing under-15 boys in the first place, because there must be legal implications about that. If you slid in like you normally would in the WSL and you break one of those kids' legs, I'm not convinced you're going to be able to do that. So I am sure they'll be playing within themselves a little bit as well. So I would just get rid of those. Just play against the women, make life a lot easier for yourself, and stop giving this ammunition. You don't need it. There's plenty of good teams out there that you can match yourself up against. Or the personal favourite, any good Sunday League team would absolutely batter the best women's teams. They'd absolutely batter them. Would they? Would they really? Okay. Well, here's the problem. You're comparing chalk and cheese. What are you doing? I haven't seen a single person go, do you know what, that Katie Taylor, she's hard as nails, she is. But I tell you what, if she stepped in the ring with Tyson Fury, he'd knock her spark out. I've never seen it. I've never seen it once. I have never seen someone go, that Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price, she is really fast. But if she went up against Usain Bolt, he'd be back in the toilets before she got there. Never seen it, not once. I have never, in the history of watching the Olympics, seen someone go, oh, they threw the javelin quite well there, but they didn't quite throw it as far as the men, so I won't bother watching that. What is going on? Ladies, why is it that women's football is the only sport where apparently you have to compare it to the men? Why are they doing it? Why are they getting themselves so angry? I need help with this, because I know I'm not going to change their mind by talking to them, but they are really pressed about this. And they're talking about it being shoved down our throats, whilst not understanding that a lot of people that watch women's football have literally had football thrusted down their throats for years. Wimbledon as well. Like I can't count the amount of times when I was younger that I tried to tape EastEnders, and you go to watch it and you're like, oh, bloody Sharon's having an affair again. But I've got no idea who won in that tennis match, because sorry, the other way around. Sharon meant to have an affair. I didn't know that because I'm too busy watching Andy Murray, because they've extended it on that channel and whacked it over onto BBC too. So they do make a lot of changes. So talk to me, girls. You must have seen it as well. Why is the world going absolutely crazy about women's football? Why are they just not able to just accept it's here?
I think it's because every other sport you've mentioned there has always been side by side. And what I mean by that is the Olympics, you have the women's races and the men's races, and there's no the women are. I'm trying to put. Sorry, I'm going to restart again. It's always been side by side. The Olympics, you watch every event and you watch the women and then you watch the men. Tennis, you watch the women's final, then you watch the men's final. It's always been the same. Whereas football has always been the men's game. And obviously there's the 50-year ban, there's everything like that. But also on TV, it's always been, even since the WSL was professionalized, it was always prioritized. The men's game was football. It's not a universal, unisex as such sport like everything else is, because it's always been football and women's football. And you don't go men's tennis, and no, you don't go tennis and women's tennis. It's just tennis until you get to the nitty gritty of tour, which obviously is then separate because they play separately. I think that plays into it. And also right now we live in a country where there are very insecure men in charge of certain parties, and we've had this conversation last week, maybe this time last week, sounds about right, who want to prey on the insecurity of other insecure men, and they are happy to boost up culture and boost up everything to make themselves feel better when they actually are just insecure and saddos. Because I come from a football family, you know, I come from, my grandpa has been a season ticket holder at Arsenal since he was a teenager. He is in his 80s. He won't mind me saying that. He looks fabulous for his age, but he is. He has been a season ticket holder so long. He has a signed picture of once again the name's gone from my head. He has a signed picture of an Arsenal player on his wall outside his bedroom. He has a letter from Mikel Arteta wishing him a happy 80th birthday on his wall. Like, football is in our blood. The first person to ring me after the final yesterday was my grandma, because my grandpa wanted to talk to me about the football. People that actually are relevant in this world care and are happy. People who are irrelevant, like Joey Barton and the rest of his saddos, are so far from reality that they feel the need to say it's shoving down their throats that the penalties are worse, that the football is just crap and Sunday League could beat them, because they are insecure in themselves, and that's the only reason why they would feel the need to say that. Because if they actually valued themselves and their own lives, they wouldn't bother saying it, because they've got better things to do, like, quite frankly. I also think it also is quite telling of how they view men's football. If that their need to make men's football look better is to compare it to women's football and say that, oh, men's football, the women's football is so much worse than men's football.
Do you think also it's a bit about engagement, because he knows that people are going to jump at it, and so as a result, because he's not going to make any money being a pundit anywhere, because he is literally worse than any Aluko, no matter how much he wants to have a go at her, I would book any Aluko over Joey Barton every day of the week that ends in Y. It is, isn't it, just about the fact that he knows that his only income stream is by getting this sort of engagement, and he knows it's going to wind people up.
100%, and people always will bite at the bit, because that's how human nature is. Like, that's how we are as humans. We will, dangle the carrot, we will bite it, because it's there, and it's our human brains get too angry at him that we have to then reply, and then he's got what he's wanted. But it's not even just him. You have the other big Twitter accounts that pay for their blue badge so they can get some money. And they were tweeting after the France-Germany shootout, the run-up, and being like, this is the one that knocked France out. And I literally quote tweeted it and was like, well, I can tell you for a fact and certain this person knows this is not the one that knocked France out. But they're happy to tell you because they want the engagement, they want the paycheck from Elon Musk, and they're happy to take that because they know that people are going to go, oh, women's football shucks, she's so bad, when actually she's one of France's best ever players. Like, these people will do anything because that's the society we live in. And it is shocking, but it's also unshocking because, like, obviously. And also, they're just twats. Sorry.
That is definitely the too long didn't read version of that one. Freya, worded you slightly differently in this one, because maybe I am a bit of a grumpy old man in some respects now, but I look at some of the stuff that's on the telly nowadays, Love Island, which to me just gives women and men a completely wrong view of what it is to, number one, date in this world and of what your body should look like. You look at the likes of Jeremy Kyle, I know that he's been sacked off now, but the number of people that went on there just to air their dirty laundry in front of everyone, and argue for their 15 minutes of fame. They did it as well on Big Brother. You look at shows now like Married at First Sight. I mean, since when did that become a thing? That I've never met this person, but I'm going to marry them. We're going to take the most sacred institution you could possibly have, which is to commit your life to somebody else. And we're just going to do that without even really knowing who that person is. And of course, top of the list on this one, Naked Attraction, where everybody just gets naked on the TV, so you can decide whether or not that person's got the body that's just right for you. And of course, if you're one of the poor three schmucks that don't get picked, you're going home, I presume, thinking, oh, it just wasn't quite right. I bring all of these things up because in a world where all of this exists and it is just absolute toot that nobody wants to watch, but then you got people moaning that you've got people out there showing girls that it's all right, number one, to be athletic, number two, not to give in, number three, talking just about PE and getting involved in sport, something that perennially across schools we're finding is still done more and more by the boys for a variety of different reasons, not the least because of body confidence issues, whilst they're having to do this with those same boys that are watching these same TV shows that have now got the completely wrong idea as to what normal actually is. Why is it that we've got all of this going on and yet it's women's football that is absolutely dominating the front pages of Twitter and Instagram and all of these places? Because I don't get it. And I'm a bloke, so from a women's point of view, are you getting it? Because exactly that, Shane, teaches great things can be achieved if you work together. Why is it that all of this guff is just idolised without any trouble whatsoever, but women's football is that polarising?
I think because women's football is actually challenging the ideals of what football is. And like Liberty said, quite brilliantly, the twats of the internet, I genuinely think, I'm sure I've said this before, there are some people online who have no power over their own lives and they feel completely powerless and helpless. And maybe they played football at school, they wanted to go pro, they weren't good enough. And instead of accepting it, getting on with life, knowing it's a game, they see a successful woman. And it just so happens to be that they're a successful female footballer. And they can't handle it. They can't take it. So what they then do is start to take them down again and again and again, to claw back some control, to make themselves feel better, that their sport is the best sport and they're better and they could do it. And it's all about control, and it always has been. And it's so much easier for these fragile men to come together over hating something rather than acknowledging, oh, actually, it's a completely different sport. People can enjoy it. That's fine. It's not for me. And I've seen a lot of men go, oh, great for Lionesses. I didn't watch it. It's not for me, but, fair play to them. And that's it. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't have to be this constant hatred and just finger pointing and blame that there's something wrong with it. When really, you're right, it's teaching young girls that can be anything they want to be. If they want to play football, they can go and bloody well play football. And men like that, unfortunately, do exist in the real world, in all walks of life. But unfortunately, because some ex-idiot professional footballers who, the amount of people replying to his missed penalties, by the way, has been incredible. But yeah, I think all of that other drivel, that reality nonsense that's on telly, it's not challenging anyone, is it? It's not threatening anyone. It's just a bit of, it's an hour on E4 that someone's going to watch at 2:00 in the morning. Like, it's not troubling anyone. But for women's football to prove that they're actually really talented and they do deserve a platform, they just can't cope. They can't see women be successful. And a lot of it is to do with the fact that they are women taking their game away from them. And it's right. It makes me so angry, but to the point where I would love to reply to all of these idiots, but I know I wouldn't hear the end of it. So it's that harsh line between, you want to call it out, but I've seen it happen to some good friends of mine who have called it out, and then the barrage of abuse they get. And you just think they're not worth it, and just, report and block and just get rid of them all.
Absolutely report and block. And I think the ignoring bit of it, not giving them, a former scout leader, so I can explain the fire triangle very good to you. You've got to have the fuel, you've got to have the ignition source, but you've also got to have the oxygen. You can have the other two, but if you don't have the oxygen, that fire's going nowhere. And I think this is half the problem, the oxygen that they're being given and the ability for people to see it and interact with it. I've deliberately not responded to it on X or anywhere else at the moment, because what's the point? Like, it just gives him even more oxygen, which frankly I'd like to reduce the amount he gets, if I'm honest. Not physically, I'm not wishing him dead, but maybe unconscious. That might be good. So there we are. They have become the joke. They really have. And I just don't get it. There was one tweet that sort of made me giggle, because he was having quite a rational conversation about, I just don't like women's football. It's fine. I don't care about it. I'm not interested in it. I just don't like it. It's not a problem. And then he finishes off all of that with, and real football fans know that women's football is rubbish. And I'm just like, the minute you've done that, you've just lit that little bit of gas, because I'm a real football fan, mate, and I'm probably twice your age, and I can guarantee you're wrong. But they just lump everybody in. Oh, most men think it's not. It's not most men. And these are the same people who, the minute a woman turns around and goes, well, it's men that are attacking women, and go, well, it's not all men. It's the same thing. So it's not all men that hate women's football either, you absolute pony. So there we go. Do you know what? I can't help it. I still like it. I have to jump on there, because I've cultivated a community that generally isn't full of those sort of idiots. And I think if you do that, it's like my gardening. I don't have a garden. I live in a flat, so X is my garden. And sadly, I try and use that manure just to make the good stuff grow. So there we are. So yeah, there we go. Listen, we've done it. Connor's already been on in shock that we're still live. And yes, it has been a longer one, but I think there was a lot to come out of that. And the second half of what we spoke about there, I think was quite important. But it is certainly time to close down before Freya falls unconscious herself there on that sofa, having spent a ridiculous amount of time in front of a screen. I was thinking her background was blurry, but that is just literally what Freya can probably see right now. It's just everything blurry all the way around it. And of course, Liberty is now getting dark in front of her chest of drawers, and I'm worried that something will go wrong there. So there we go. We are going to have to end it there. But what I will say is, of course, we did our predictions right at the very beginning. I can confirm, as we said before, none of us got it right. Freya said that it was going to be Italy and Spain. She was right. Spain were in the final, but they did not win, as she thought they might. She was the only person who said that Spain would win. Liberty went for Germany and Spain. She thought Germany would win it and didn't. But Spain, so she was right in a way. You know, Spain were in the final and they lost it. So in that respect, that's probably as close as we get. Sean, if you're still watching, mate, turn off now because you had a mare saying Germany and France. I also said Germany and Spain. So technically, Liberty, you and I have won this because we both said that Spain would be the losers of the final. But that's me on penalties, maybe. I think we've won that one because Freya also said that Spain would be there as well. So I've really enjoyed it. It's been absolutely superb. Liberty, I'm going to finish with one question. What's been your highlight of the tournament? I should have told you this one before you came on. I just literally dropped that.
Yeah, you know what? I've really enjoyed watching people. So the context of this is going to be, for people that don't know me, most of my stuff is European League based. That's what I do. That is my happy point. That is what I love talking about and sharing online. So my highlight has been watching people find out about players that play in leagues that I follow, and I players I watch, you know, week in, week out. Watching people find them for the first time, like watching people find out that Geraldine Reuteler is a really excellent footballer, has really made me happy. People finding out about Smilla Homburg has made me really happy. Stuff like that, because, you know, I'm blessed that this is my reality, is watching these players week in, week out, but it's not everyone's. And to watch them go, hang on a second, that Swiss midfielder's quite all right. It's just really made me happy because, yeah, it's the simple things. I love people expanding their knowledge. That's sort of what my whole aim is. And to have that happen in real time has just made me really happy.
There we go. Absolutely. If you want to hear more from Liberty, you can go and click her name in literally every single social media platform that there is. And you will find Liberty Simons, where you can hear lots of stuff. And honestly, it's well worth the follow because you will find lots of information about lots of things that you didn't know you needed to know about, which is great. Freya, talk to me a little bit about your moment of the tournament. And you've got no excuse because you literally watched it all.
I watched all of it. Yeah, no, there's some fantastic moments. And Josh actually in the chat there saying, you know, about Reuteler and Michelle Adjiman, and what's been lovely about this tournament, apart from, you know, Anne Katzenberger's save, that's going to live on in the history books. But from doing the live watch-alongs, just having people interact, and Josh, in the chat there, we were talking about Reuteler, as Liberty was saying there. But Josh is a United fan, but he's a United men's fan. And from that, he's thinking, he even said in the chat one night, he's like, I might actually go watch the Frauen Bundesliga because I quite like Reuteler and I quite like this other player. And just the community coming together and showing that there are men out there who have come from the men's side of the game, have discovered their women's team, and have then discovered women's international football. And they're going, you know what? I don't really know about this person. Let me watch this podcast. Let me watch this game and learn more. And that's been the fantastic thing, that the community that's come together, the proper football community, people who just find joy in the game and joy in meeting other people who love it as well. So yes, I think that's definitely got to be a highlight outside of the actual football.
Loving the game just for what it is. Poppycock, it'll never catch on. You can find more from T. Freya Wright, if you so desire. You can find her there. You'll also find her on the whole 115 yards, which is a very good place to go and watch. And you might also see her on the Absolute Ball Pod, which is on the Absolute Women. I've forgotten the name of it.
So the umbrella is the Absolute Football Podcast, but we do the women's show on a Wednesday night.
That's why I'm getting confused. And it was the Absolute, and I'm like, no, it's definitely not Absolute.
There's too many. I'm on too many podcasts. I'll be around somewhere. Yeah, you'll see me.
You'll find her. She's on pretty much every podcast that's going. So there we go. That's superb. And there we go. That's them. For me, so many things. Poland, first ever tournament. Wales, first ever tournament. Switzerland, the hosts, defying gravity as they made it into the quarterfinals. So many things. Norway actually getting there as well. It blew us all away. Iceland. I should never shop there again. All of these things that were just so good. And you get to the quarterfinals, the knockout stage is absolutely amazing. Germany against France, Germany against Spain, Anke Berger. Just what a player she is. Taking penalties, saving penalties. Definitely the Chloe Kelly of the German side there. And of course, England, extra time, penalties, nailed it. Extra time, nailed it with a penalty. And then in the final, extra time, penalties. Football, it came home, went for a little holiday to Switzerland. And guess what? It's back again for another 4 years. Come on, England. You've been a delight. We'll see you next time. Thank you to everyone. Bye all.